All right, we're going to do 10-5. You can solve this one by completing this square. 10-5 is all about solving by using the quadratic formulas. So we're learning all different types of ways to find those roots. We did it by factoring, graphing, completing the square, and now we're learning a fourth way, which is the quadratic formula. And that's exactly what it sounds like. It's a formula that you can use for all quadratics to find the roots. This is what it looks like. So negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. There is a link to a song that if you're in class I make you listen to help you memorize the quadratic formula. You do need to have that memorized, and it's not as bad as it looks, I promise. So negative b, so if you look at this formula, all you need is a, b, and c. We know how to find a, b, and c. We've been finding them. And then you just plug them in. The biggest thing you got to remember is that if you are plugging something in, you have to make sure you put it in parentheses so you don't lose any signs or any important things that need to happen, okay? So before you can identify a, b, and c, you need to have your quadratic set equal to 0. That happens every time unless you're using the completing the square. Other than that, you have to have everything on the same side. Then you find a, b, and c, plug them into the formula, and then you have to simplify under your square root first. This is really important. Do not try to put it all in your calculator, but once you get that number under the root by itself, it's pretty easy. Then find each root from there. All right, so your quadratic formula is negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So I need to set it equal to 0, which it is. I need a, b, and c. A in this case is 1, b is negative 2, and c is negative 24. Okay, so I'm going to take those numbers and plug them into my formula. So negative b, which is negative 2. So the first negative is part of the formula. The second negative is because that's what my b is. Plus or minus the square root. B again is negative 2 squared minus 4 times a, which is 1, and c, which is negative 24. All over 2 times a, which is 1. Okay, it looks awful right now, but it won't in about 20 seconds. You have to simplify under your square root first, and you can put all of that in your calculator exactly how you see it. So parentheses, negative 2, close parentheses, squared, minus 4, parentheses 1, parentheses, negative 24, enter. And you should get 100. So then you just rewrite it. Simplify what you can. When negative 2 is a positive 2. Plus or minus the square root, you just got 100 over 2 times 1 on the bottom, which is 2. And it already looks 100 times better. If your number underneath your root is a perfect square, you can take the square root of it. So 100 is a perfect square, so that square root is 10. Okay, so when I go to rewrite it, I go to plus 10 all over 2. And then I have a separate equation of 2 minus 10 all over 2. If that number underneath the root isn't a perfect square, then just leave it in the square root until you're ready to simplify. But we just split it into our two equations, and now you go ahead and solve. So 2 plus 10 is 12. 12 over 2 is 6. And 2 minus 10 is negative 8. And negative 8 over 2 is negative 4. And then we're done. Okay? Not too bad. Let's do another one. So our quadratic formula is negative b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. A is 1, B is 7, and C is 6. I could do that because it was already set equal to 0. So then we just have to plug them in. So negative, parentheses, B is 7, plus or minus the square root, 7 squared minus 4 times 1 times 6, all over 2 times A, which is 1. Do that discriminant, that number underneath your square root first. So we've got 7 squared minus 4 times 1 times 6. That gives me 25. Simplify what you can. So negative 7 is just negative 7, plus or minus the square root of 25, all over 2 times 1, which is 2. 25 is a perfect square, so that makes my life a little easier. I can just bring it out as a 5 when I go to write my two equations. So that's a negative 7 plus 5 over 2, and a negative 7 minus 5 over 2. And you solve. Negative 7 plus 5 is negative 2. Negative 2 divided by 2 is negative 1. So there's one root. Negative 7 minus 5 is negative 12. And negative 12 over 2 is negative 6. And those are your two roots. Okay, one more. This one's not set equal to 0, so that has to be your first priority. So bring that 12 over. So that gives me x squared plus 11x minus 12 equals 0. Okay, now x equals negative b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. The more you write it, the more you say it, the better you're going to remember it. A is 1, B is 11, C is negative 12 because I moved it over. Plug them in. Negative 11 plus or minus 11 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 12 all over 2 times 1. Do that number under your root first. So 11 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 12, and you get 169. Negative 11 plus or minus radical 169 all over 2. 169 is a perfect square. It's 13. So it comes out as 13 when I write my equations. So negative 11 plus 13 over 2, and negative 11 minus 13 over 2. So negative 11 plus 13 is 2 over 2, which is 1. And negative 11 minus 13 is negative 24 over 2, which is negative 12. Okay. All right, that's it. 10-5.